I, Manvi Saraswat, welcomes you all in this auspicious evening where we are completing our 147th Graduate Scholars Talk series hosted by History Society Sakshay and IQAC. Graduate Scholars Talk series, which started on 7th February 2021 with one idea in mind to enhance the speaking and analytical skills on various topics that our students deliver and wish if we could provide people with new perspectives and give our contribution in changing the surroundings. It's said perseverance is not a long race, it is many short races, one after the other. So, at last, we are here, and the credit goes to our very hardworking moderators Ajay Gupta, Shubham Tiwari, Saurabh Singh, Samriddhi Kanpal, Shubhi Singh, Shailendra Rathod, and Manvi Saraswat, and to our advisor, Dr. Manish Karmawar. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce you all to our chief guest, Dr. Gaurav Singh, who has graciously accepted our invitation to join us today. Sir is assistant professor in Department of History in Shyam Lal College Evening, University of Delhi. He is presently a doctoral candidate at the Center for Historical Studies at JNU at Jawaharlal Nehru University. The focus of his research pertains to the examination of religious processes within the Jejabukti region during the early medieval period. He has Master of Philosophy. He has done Master of Philosophy from Jamia Millia Islamia. His research focuses specifically on the Jejabukti region with a particular emphasis on analyzing the political and religious dynamics unfolding inside the region. Sir is very popular among the students also. Sir, I request your permission to start the program.
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We would get back to you after Kajal finishes her talk. So, without waiting further, I would like to call our speaker, Ms. Kajal, presenting her astonishing views on the topic, the psychology of the colonizer and colonized, a study through Frantz Fanon's lens. Kajal, the stage is yours.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kajal Bhardwaj, and I'm a student of Masters in the Department of African Studies in University of Delhi. And I would like to thank Dr. Gaurav as well as the whole GSTS family to give me an opportunity to talk on the topic today. So, the topic of my talk today is the psychology of colonizers and the colonized from the lens of Frantz Fanon. So before starting off this very intellectual topic, I would like to say that why I actually felt interested in doing this is just because there is a certain idea that we follow, and in our head it is like we are free from a lot of things. But this idea of psychological aspect of colonization was extremely intriguing to me to know how such a huge mass of people can be colonized by someone. How can someone be so much astonished by one that they are just wanting to act like them? So there needs to be a current relevance to this topic, which I personally felt is that we have many blockbusters these days, like Animal, we had Barbie, we have many English television series as well as Hindi, which have played a very major role in shaping the mindset of today. So when I personally came out of the cinema hall after watching Animal, there is this feeling of anguish that one feels in himself or herself, for that matter, that what would have taken place into someone's head that it made them do something so violent in nature. And when I talk about a very positive aspect of this thing, when I talk about Barbie, तो जब आप ऐसी मूवीज देख के बाहर आते हैं तो इतनी बड़ी सोसाइटल प्रॉब्लम फेमिनिज्म की जो दुनिया में हर इंसान मतलब फेस करता है आज की दुनिया में, अचानक से आपको लगता है दैट सोल्यूशन इज देयर, राइट? देयर इज जस्ट दिस toy. Barbie is a toy, and there is this certain kind of solution that it gives you. There is certain kind of seed that is embedded in your head when you come out of that particular movie, which was so intriguing to me. Ki how come this thing is actually possible? And not only this, when we talk about the current situation, the political situation of the country, or for that matter the whole world, हम ये चीज देखते हैं कि कैसे कुछ चीजें जो आप पर्सनली फेस नहीं कर रहे हैं, पर उनके आपके दिमाग में उनको लेके एक आइडिया एम्बेडेड कर देते हैं थ्रू सोशल मीडिया, थ्रू पीपल टॉकिंग, कि आपको लगता है कि मे बी दिस आइडिया इज पॉसिबल एंड यू स्टार्ट एक्टिंग एज इफ यू आर देयर इन दैट पर्टिकुलर सिचुएशन. So this is how the minute manipulation of psychology works on humans. They are not coming directly, or they are not coming and talking to you directly, but the area around your environment has been made in such a way that you start thinking on topics like these. So it was the very same case with Frantz Fanon when he was born. And this is the reason why I took up on this topic. And for me, I think before I start talking about a thinker, there needs to be a current, clear situation that needs to be there in today's world. So the topic seemed very relevant to me. And before starting directly onto the topic, I would like to give background of Frantz Fanon. एंड वाई इज दैट नेसेसरी इज बिकॉज अगर आप किसी की भी आइडियोलॉजी और उसकी थिंकिंग के बारे में जानना चाहते हैं, एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट होता है उस चीज का कि आप देखें वो कहाँ से आए हैं, उनका बैकग्राउंड क्या है, उनकी सोसाइटल अपब्रिंगिंग कैसी थी. तो फ्रांस फैनन वाज बोर्न ऑन द 20th of July 1935, which was a very crucial colonial period from the place he was from, Montesquieu, a very beautiful place, and he was one of the 8 children. His father was the descendant of African slave and mother was a Caribbean. So जैसा कि हम देखते हैं that he was himself from a mixed race. तो ये उनकी आइडियोलॉजी को शेप करने में इतना प्रोमिनेंट रोल प्ले करेंगी आगे जाके. एंड ही वर्कड इन वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 एज वेल एज द अल्जीरियन वॉर. एंड वो तुनेशिया भी अपने बहुत सारे उनके फेमस काम जो उन्होंने लिखे हैं, दे वर फ्रॉम ईदर अल्जीरिया और तुनेशिया, वो वहां पे भी जाते हैं. एंड व्हाट वी विल सी इज कि इतना सब कुछ होने के बावजूद ही वाज विजिटिंग सो मेनी कंट्रीज, बट एट द एंड ही डिडंट इवन हैव a citizenship of one particular country. He died at a very young age of 36 due to leukemia. But one of the biggest role model, as we can say, in his life was Amy Cesar, जिनने उनके कामों को देखा and he gave him a clear perspective कि उनको किस जगह या फिर किस आइडियोलॉजी में उनको काम करना चाहिए. So he has मतलब commendable work on the psychological fact. So as I've talked about the background of Frantz Fanon, there needs to be this reason why and what was the psychological idea of Fanon. So psychological idea of Fanon is so prominent because हम देखते हैं कि हमारा देश भी colonizers के अंदर गया था और बहुत सारे देश for that matter were under the colonizers. पर इकोनॉमिकली अगर आप किसी कंट्री को मतलब अपने अंदर लेना चाहते हैं, इट इज अ वेरी इजी प्रोसेस. बट हाउ इज इट पॉसिबल कि हर एक इंसान जो उस देश में रह रहा है, he thinks of the person who's colonizing them as something great. This is the psychological idea of Frantz Fanon, जहां वो बात करते हैं कि कॉलोनाइजर से लेके एक कॉलोनाइज तक कैसे ये मानसिकता बढ़ती गई कि लोग इतने सारे, मतलब 1 या 2 या 3 जने नहीं, इतने सारे लोग were under this one single colonial rule. And his concept of colonial neurosis is very famous. And why his work is so intriguing? Because it's absolutely one of a kind. कि इकोनॉमिक अगर आपके ऊपर कोई आपदा आती है, देश पे आपदा आती है, वो कभी ना कभी you will get over it. But when we talk about the psychological effect, it is lifelong. So, so his analysis reveals lot of intriguing facts जो और किसी के काम में there might be many of the writers who might have written about it, but his work was so beautiful just because it connected directly to him and to the people each and every day. So I would like to jump on to the idea of the colonizers, which is so intriguing. आप जब इस idea के बारे में सुनते हैं तो it is very new to us. पर आप इससे ऐसे रिलेट कर सकते हैं कि ये आज तक हो रहा है, हर रोज आपके साथ होता होगा, मेरे साथ होता है. हर एक इंसान is still under some or the other manipulative idea of the other person. So जब हम idea of colonizer की बात करते हैं फ्रांस फैनन के पर्सपेक्टिव से, so एक बहुत एक्सटिंग्विश फैक्ट आपके सामने आता है कि कभी भी जो इंसान आपको कॉलोनाइज करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, इट इज ओनली पॉसिबल विथ मैनिपुलेशन. अगर आप किसी के दिमाग पे काबू करना चाहते हैं, मैनिपुलेशन इज द फर्स्ट की. दिस इज हाउ यू वुड स्टार्ट टेलिंग पीपल कि कैसे आप उनसे बहुत ज्यादा अच्छा है. एंड देयर इज दिस थिंग दैट फ्रांस फैनन सेज दैट द ऑप्रेसर विल ऑलवेज फील लो ऑफ हिमसेल्फ, कि जो इंसान कॉलोनाइज्ड है वो हमेशा अपने बारे में कम सोचेगा. हम पैदा होते हैं, हमारे दिमाग में आइडियाज नहीं होते कि हम किसी से कम है या हम ऑफ कोर्स आपको टिल अ वेरी राइप एज आपको नहीं समझ में आता सही या गलत का डिफरेंस. बट जो कॉलोनाइजर का माइंडसेट होता है, जो इतने बड़े राज्य पे जो शासन करने वाले हैं, उनका माइंडसेट कैसा होता है? कि दे आर नॉट गना कम एंड टेल यू कि हम आपसे बेहतर हैं या हम आपसे कुछ अच्छा कर सकते हैं, बट इंस्टेड व्हाट दीज पीपल डू इज दे टॉक अबाउट देमसेल्व्स, अबाउट देयर ओन ग्रेटनेस. So there is a very famous saying that our colonizers used to say that the sun never sets on the British flag, which is such a big thing. We हम कोई छोटी या एक इंसान या दो इंसान की बात नहीं कर रहे. We are talking about the whole sun. And the saying that they say कि हमारे फ्लैग पे कभी सूरज भी नहीं ढलता है, is they are talking about themselves so highly. These people are so full of themselves and they are talking about something that is hypothetical yet so effective. The sun will absolutely never set on the British Empire. Now there is something that we call the white man burden, that is one of the very prominent facts that we see in Frantz Fanon work is कि white man जो हमारे colonizers हैं उनको कहीं ना कहीं ऐसा अपने दिमाग में लगता था कि they are the superior breed made by God, कि हम superior हैं, we are the superior ones and we are here to colonize you, we are here to make you better. They are never gonna say कि हम आप पे राज करना चाहते हैं, वो आपको कहते हैं कि हम आपको better बनाना चाहते हैं. एंड अगर कोई आपको कंसिस्टेंटली आकर कहे कि आई वुड वांट टू डू समथिंग गुड फॉर यू, इट इज अ डिफरेंट थिंग. बट अगर कोई आपको आके कहे कि आपके अंदर एक कमी है, आप ऐसे बनो, आप वैसे बनो, हो सकता है शुरुआती दौर में आप ऐसा ना सोचें, पर एक इंसान का दिमाग ऐसे काम करता है कि एट द एंड ऑफ द डे आप बिलीव करने लग जाओगे कि मे बी मेरे अंदर कोई कमी है. एंड दैट इज द आइडिया ऑफ द कॉलोनाइजर जो हम यहाँ सीखते हैं कि they will bring you to a level of dehumanization. वो आपको इंसानों की तरह भी ट्रीट करना बंद कर देंगे, आप एक गलती की तरह लगेंगे. You will yourself think. That is the major reason कि जैसे ही ब्रिटिशर्स आया, जैसे ही कोई शासन करने आता है देश में, they try to tell कि हम कितने महान हैं, एंड जो लोग उनकी बातें सुनते रहते हैं उनको लगता है कि नहीं ये वो चीज है जो हमें बनना है. एंड ये हम करंट सिचुएशन में भी देखते हैं कि बहुत सारी जगह ऐसा होता है, इन्फ्लुएंसर्स हुए, बहुत सारे टीवी सीरियल एक्टर्स हुए, मूवी स्टार्स हुए, वी कैन नॉट लिव लाइफ लाइक देम, बिकॉज मैं अलग हूँ, आप अलग हो, हर एक इंसान अपने आप में एक अलग पर्सनालिटी है. पर कैसे हम कंसिस्टेंटली कोशिश करते हैं कि हम किसी और की तरह बने, कि हम बिल्कुल एक कॉपी पेस्ट इमेज बन जाए किसी की, जिसको हम अज्यूम करें अपने दिमाग में कि वो बहुत महान है. और यही एक फैक्ट होता है कि आप इतना फ्लरिश नेशन होने के बाद भी कहीं ना कहीं यू जस्ट कम एंड लैंड ऑन दिस फैक्ट कि मैं किसी से कम हूं. एंड उससे ज्यादा जो पोजीशन होल्ड हो जाती है लोगों के हमारे दिमाग में, इट इज सो मच ग्रेटर कि आप उसको अचानक से यू कैन नॉट जस्ट टेक इट आउट ऑफ योर हेड, एंड इट इज समथिंग दैट कीप्स ऑन बीइंग इन योर हेड फॉर द रेस्ट ऑफ योर लाइफ. बट अब अगर आप किसी को कॉलोनाइज कर रहे हैं तो द बेसिक थिंग इज हाउ विल यू ट्रीट द कॉलोनाइज्ड, कि कॉलोनाइज जो जिन पे अब हम शासन करने वाले हैं उनके दिमाग में क्या चलता है. So I would like to give an example of my own school life. I myself am from a British Friends school in Ajmer, and in our school, of course, they gave us a lot of self-confidence, taught us many beautiful things that I still cherish each and every day. But an idea of something that you're not, an idea of a person who is so perfect, this idea of a British girl they were preaching, and I'm 100% sure they were possible making each and every one of us like that. पर जो आइडिया वो प्रीच कर रहे थे, इट इज सम और द अनदर वे कोलोनियल. कोलोनाइजेशन हमारे जहन से आज तक और आने वाली कई पीढ़ियों तक कभी खत्म नहीं होने वाला. एंड एक कोट जो फ्रांस फैनन कहते हैं वो ये है, इंपीरियलिज्म लीव्स बिहाइंड जर्म्स ऑफ रॉट व्हिच मस्ट बी क्लिनिकली डिटेक्टेड एंड रिमूव फ्रॉम द माइंड्स एज वेल. ही सेइंग समथिंग सो बिग कि जो कोलोनाइजेशन है वो कीड़े की तरह है, जो आपके दिमाग में जब घुस चुका है आपको उसको निकाल फेंकना है वहां से. His ideas were very violent in nature, but some or the another way something जिससे हर कोई मतलब हर कोई relate कर सकता है. So when we talk about the idea of the colonized, again colonial neurosis plays a very major part, but दिमाग में आपको इतना फीड कर दिया जा चुका है कि आप बेहतर नहीं हैं, आपको इम्प्रूवमेंट की जरूरत है, कि जैसे ही वी सॉ this beautiful image of a white person, we were intrigued, we just wanted to be like them, we just wanted that this is the only thing I want in my life, I want to be like the white person. And this still happens today. We all are in the verge of being colonized by our own ideas, by the ideas that are preached to us by others. अब यहाँ पे there is identity crisis. colonize होने के लिए सबसे पहली जो चीज जरूरी है वो ये है कि आप अपनी रूट्स छोड़ दें. एंड यही वो चीजें जो कॉलोनाइजर सबसे पहले करते हैं. दे आस्क यू टू लीव योर ओन रूट्स, योर ओन एथनिसिटी. जो आप हैं आप उसको भूल के किसी नए की परसेप्शन को अगर प्रीच करेंगे तो आप उनके जैसे बनने की कोशिश करते जाएंगे. And जैसे जैसे you or we started becoming like the colonizers or tried to act like the colonizers, they knew that it was the right time to colonize such a huge amount of people. मैं एक दो देश की नहीं, many nations were under the same colonial rule. And this idea was an absolute masterpiece because it worked every single time. And there is a fracture in the thinking of a human when they are colonized. Now, this whole idea that I have just explained to you right now can be way more clear when we talk about the works of Frantz Fanon. So, of course, his depiction, one of the most beautiful work of his is The Black Skin, White Mask. And this book was written in 1952. And the beauty of this particular book is that it talks about the fact how even when you are free from the colonization, when you are decolonized, you would still want to act like the people who colonized you. So Black Skin White Mask basically ये book ये discuss करती है, जैसा उसके नाम से हम देख सकते हैं that the skin is black and the mask is white, कि हम decolonize अगर आप होना चाहते हैं तो the first thing is it should be done from the root itself. Embrace your identity is what he says in this book. And the major thing is कि even when you are decolonized, आपके दिमाग में वो idea इतना deep penetrate कर चुका है that there is some sort of stereotypes that would still be in your head. And ये slowly steadily ये काम नहीं हो सकता है कि आज नहीं, कल नहीं, परसों नहीं, आप रोज एक एक step लें. This is not possible. He talks about a radical shift that should come. An extreme radical shift जो अचानक से आए and you are out of the decolonization. And वो तब तक नहीं हो सकता till the time आप decide नहीं करें कि that white mask is something you want to take off of your face. Till the time there is that white mask right on your face, you would never be able to decolonize yourself from such a dehumanizing effect. आप हमेशा आप अपने आप को इंसान की तरह ट्रीट करना भूल जाएंगे because of the fact that you're still trying to wear the white mask जिसको आप अपनी लाइफ से निकालना चाहते हैं. And if you're holding something and if you're trying to push the very same thing, you would still be affected. So this was the whole crux of Black Skin, White Mask. But one of the most famous work of Frantz Fanon that deeply talks about the literal dehumanizing effect कि कितनी त्रासदी मच जाती है ऐसे वॉर या ऐसे कॉलोनाइजेशन के समय में कि एक इंसान का ब्रेन हम ह्यूमन ना हो के किसी और तरीके से उसको परसीव करने लग जाते हैं. दैट इज सीन इन द रेचेड ऑफ द अर्थ. सो इससे पहले मैं बताना चाहूंगी कि फ्रांस फैनन was in the liberation movement in Algeria, and he was a very big part of the Algerian war. He completed his psychiatry and then he joined a hospital there, and वहाँ पे he was treating both French as well as Algerian soldiers. तो जब वो उन्हें treat कर रहे थे तो he was consistently looking at the psychological effect जो वो war छोड़ रही थी. इस book में बहुत सारे example देते हैं, but this book has a very beautiful case study जिसके अंदर he talks about the long lasting psychological impact on the people who are indulged in the war, and specifically Algerian लोगों के ऊपर इनने काम किया था. तो इस पर्टिकुलर किताब के अंदर जो ये बात कहना चाह रहे हैं वो ये है कि जो डीह्यूमनाइजिंग अफेक्ट इनने उस समय वॉर के टाइम पे देखा, और जब मैं जैसा बता रही थी कि ये उस टाइम अल्जेरियन लोगों को उस टाइम ट्रीट कर रहे थे, दैट इज द टाइम वेयर द आइडिया ऑफ freeing his own self from the fact कि why am I treating my own enemies? Why am I treating my own enemies? I don't need to do it. So that is the time when he started seeing people around him कि कैसा व्यवहार हो जाता है लोगों का जब वो एक war से आते हैं. And Algerian war definitely played a very major role in him, role in his thing. And he says this one thing in his book कि colonization is not a thinking machine nor a body endowed with reasoning facilities. It is a state of violence in its natural form, and it will only yield when confronted with greater violence. तो जैसा मैंने ये कोट के कहने का मेरा ये तात्पर्य था कि कैसे एक इंसान जो ट्रीट कर रहा है किसी को लाइक अ डॉक्टर, द डॉक्टर शुड वर्क विदाउट बाउंड्रीज. ठीक है, डॉक्टर शुड ट्रीट द राइट एंड द रॉन्ग. द वर्क ऑफ द डॉक्टर इज टू ट्रीट. पर व्हेन ही वाज हिमसेल्फ राइटिंग दिस बुक, हिज आइडियाज बिकेम वायलेंट because he was consistently thinking and thinking, और वो लोगों को देख रहे थे. So there is this example in this book, there is this incident that he saw कि कैसे there was this lady who was very ill, and the blacks, of course, in Algeria, these blacks are trying to help her, and she's herself a black, but after some time she is just blank and she's just asking ki bring me a white man to help me, blacks will not help me, bring me a white man. एंड एक और इंसिडेंट जो इस बुक के अंदर हम देखते हैं वो ये है कि जो वायलेंस इम्बॉडी होने लग गया था इन लोगों की थिंकिंग में. सो दिस बुक पर्टिकुलरली टॉक्स अबाउट द dehumanizing effect of colonialism on the brain of human. अब how can I simply explain this in today's example? बहुत वायलेंट इन नेचर नहीं है ये एग्जाम्पल, पर कहीं ना कहीं कुछ ऐसा है जिससे हम सब रिलेट कर सकते हैं. Recently, Rishi Sunak was made the president of the UK, and we are not directly connected to Rishi Sunak. Of course, he is connected to a very great family in India, but I've seen many memes, I've seen stories, I've seen जो बहुत पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं talking things like कि now we are ruling over these people, we are ruling over the British. Rishi Sunak has the citizenship of United Kingdoms, and it is no way possible that he someday would wake up and think, no, I'm from India and I'm going to colonize the Britishers. It's not going to act like that. But कहीं ना कहीं हमारे मन में जो एक खुशी की भावना आई ऋषि सुनक के प्रेसिडेंट बनते ही, जैसे इंडिया वाज रूलिंग ओवर द ब्रिटिशर्स, which is next to impossible. His work is literally the opposite of what we think it to be. And people are asking for Kohinoor back. This is something that was very prominent. बहुत सारे memes बन रहे थे that return the Kohinoor back to us. And personally, Kohinoor was not snatched from today's generation. It went to UK years and years back. And this is the thing कि कहीं ना कहीं आपने experience नहीं किया वो दुख. You have not experienced being colonized. पर आप अभी भी इतनी नफरत आपके दिमाग में है कि हमको हमारी चीजें वापस दो. एंड इस बुक के अंदर ये भी कहते हैं कि क्या कभी भी आप कॉलोनाइजर से गुड टर्म्स में आ पाएंगे? वुड यू एवर बी एबल टू हेल्प द कॉलोनाइजर्स? क्या आप कभी भी उस स्टेट ऑफ माइंड में आ पाएंगे कि नहीं, आप एक इंसान होने के तौर पे सोचे उनके साथ? एंड दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल. इफ वी टॉक अबाउट पाकिस्तान, देयर इज सॉर्ट ऑफ रेज दैट वी फील. Personally, Pakistan has never done something to each and every one of us. We don't know these people directly, but there is this rage that comes in our head. This is the dehumanizing effect. When we talk about Britishers, there is, of course, we do look from a lens of beautification ki Britishers are this or that, but when we see when we see a British person, we have this perception in our head that you colonized us. Maybe he never did it personally, but there is this idea of this violence, or maybe not a very violent form, but an idea of reclaiming this agency of our own self. That is something that he talks about in The Wretched of the Earth. कि ये जो अफेक्ट आप इन पे छोड़ रहे हैं, it is never gonna go. आप किसी देश को इकोनॉमिकली घात पहुंचाएं, पॉसिबल कि वो थोड़े समय के अंदर उभर सकता है. आप किसी को सोशली, आप किसी का कुछ छीने, पॉसिबली आप उनके मॉन्यूमेंट्स तोड़ें, everything would come back to its own pace. People would learn to live with it. But when you affect someone's brain, when you hit someone right here, that is the time you know you have won the war. When something goes right here in this head of one, it is never going to come out. I was never personally colonized. You were not personally colonized. But जब भी हम कई दो जनों को बात करता हुआ सुनते हैं colonization के बारे में, वो दर्द हम अभी भी महसूस कर सकते हैं. जबकि हमने personally, we have never faced that pain, but still, like, हम उसको महसूस कर सकते हैं that there is that pain somewhere. And that is the basic agency of this particular book, The Wretched of the Earth. Now, इतना सब कुछ होने के बाद, of course, there needs to be an idea of liberation. Idea of liberation से मेरा कहने का मतलब है कि इतना कुछ उन्होंने लिखा, उसके बाद there need to be a solution to his work. There need to be an idea कि कैसे हम liberate हों ऐसे thought से. And Frantz Fanon का idea of liberation was very violent in nature. As I have put a quote here, that violence is a man recreating himself. And there is this very one famous quote from Frantz Fanon, that each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it in relevant occupancy. कि हर जनरेशन जो इस colonization के बाद आए, उनको एक आइडिया होना चाहिए उनके दिमाग में, उनके जहन में एक आइडिया होना चाहिए कि हमारे साथ क्या हो रहा था, कि अब हम उससे बदला कैसे लें. This was his idea of liberation. He wanted that there needs to be a violent decolonizing struggle. एक बहुत वायलेंट फॉर्म में आप एक डीकोलोनाइजिंग स्ट्रगल शुरू करें, एंड सोशियो पॉलिटिकल इंस्टैब्लिशमेंट्स जो आपकी हैं, जस्ट फर्स्ट थिंग यू शुड हैव इन योर हैंड इज योर ओन एथनिसिटी. आप एक्सेप्टेंस लाएं उसके अंदर जो आप हैं, and then violently fight against the nature of the colonizers. Now, of course, when someone writes his work or when some works are published, there are critiques of the work. So these are my personal critiques that I found in his work, which I could closely very much relate to. कि before actually starting of the critiques, I would like to talk about this one thing, the current relevance of this beautiful topic that I was talking about, कि कैसे ये चीजें अभी भी are still extremely relevant. क्रिटिक जो इसके हैं वो ये है कि वन ऑफ द वेरी ग्रेट क्रिटिक जो मैंने पर्सनली इस काम से सीखा वो ये था कि देयर वाज दिस मिसिंग पीस ऑफ वुमेन स्ट्रगल इन हिज वर्क. He was talking about a very big umbrella definition of effects, but उस umbrella definition के अंदर कहीं ना कहीं एक औरतों का पर्सपेक्टिव खो गया कि वो समझ नहीं पाए, मे बी उनके काम के अंदर डिपिक्ट नहीं हुआ कि कैसे औरतें भी जो स्ट्रगल फेस कर रही थी वो आपको इनके काम में कहीं नहीं दिखेगा. एंड प्रोबेबली दिस इज समथिंग दैट कीप्स ऑन हैपनिंग टिल डेट. व्हेन वी आर बोर्न एज अ फीमेल, माइट नॉट योर ओन पेरेंट्स या द सोसाइटी, पर एक नर्चरिंग स्टेज होती है जो रोज आपको कहा जाएगा कि ये सही है या गलत है. हो नहीं सकता कि डायरेक्टली आपसे कोई कहे, पर यू विल स्टार्ट बिकमिंग this model that the people wanted you to be. So this was one of the very fascinating critique of his work कि there is this women part that is missing. The next thing is, जब ये इतनी बड़ी definition के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं colonization की या affect की, तब ये भूल जा रहे हैं कि एक personal इंसान का जो struggle है वो नहीं दिख पा रहा है इनके काम में, कि हर एक इंसान का अपना खुद का struggle होता है, and that is something that is missing in his work. And of course there is essentialism that is missing in his work. He is oversimplifying the critique, he is oversimplifying the critical situation जो उस समय देश में हो रही थी in a psychological aspect. and जब आप इनका काम पढ़ेंगे तो this, और जब मैंने इनका काम पढ़ा तो मुझे जो लगा कि वो धीरे धीरे वो खुद वो चीज बन गए जिसको वो अवॉइड कर रहे थे. he has a very Eurocentric approach and he has a very English thinking approach. He has very much of an influence from the English philosophers. पर इन सब चीजों के अलावा जो एक चीज है जो पर्सनली मैंने देखी इनके कामों के अंदर, और प्रोबेबली हर एक इंसान जिनने इनके काम पढ़े हैं या द फ्यूचर स्कॉलर्स हु आर गोना बी रीडिंग अबाउट हिज वर्क विल सी, इज दैट ही प्रमोटेड वायलेंस एक्सट्रीम ऑन अ वेरी एक्सट्रीम नेचर. वो बिना सोचे समझे ही just kept on promoting violence to an extent where he say that we simply revolt for many reasons because we cannot breathe. हम सांस नहीं ले पा रहे, इसलिए we are going to revolt, and we are going to revolt in a very violent nature. His work promoted extreme violence when he was even working in Algeria. He has this book, The New Way of African Liberation, जिसके अंदर his thinking started becoming very violent in nature. And जब भी आप किसी चीज पे रिसर्च करते हैं, there needs to be a future aspect of it, कि कैसे ये जो काम आप पढ़ रहे हैं या ये जो काम इनने लिखे हैं उनका फ्यूचर एस्पेक्ट क्या हो सकता है. तो जैसे कि मैंने कहा कि बहुत सारे थिंकर्स या फिलोसोफर्स जो काम करते हैं उनका जो आइडिया होता है इट इज मोर सोशल और मोर इकोनॉमिक, पर अबाउट फ्रांस फैनन हिज आइडिया वाज साइकोलॉजिकल. तो हर एक इंसान उनके काम से रिलेट कर पा रहा था, हर एक इंसान देख पा रहा था या देख सकता है फॉर दैट मैटर. आज भी व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट पोस्ट कॉलोनियल स्ट्रगल, उसके अंदर इनका काम बहुत महत्व रखता है. एंड अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट द पॉलिसी मेकर, this policy making situation can be benefited a lot from his idea, because the human right discourse of his work is very prominent and very important to look. कि he's talking about humans, he's not talking about nation as a whole, he's talking about humans. So जैसा कि हम देख रहे हैं कि अभी बहुत सारी जगह दुनिया के अंदर wars are going on, and जो पहली चीज एक इंसान भूलता है वॉर में जाने से पहले वो ये है कि सामने वाला इंसान है, या there are human rights that need to be followed, and we just forget the whole page of the human right and we just keep on going into the war. So his work can be very prominently be used in the policy making situations that are of course going to come in the future as well as in today's situation. And in conclusion of Frantz Fanon work, I would this whole talk is coming to an end, and in this particular conclusion, there is this oversimplification and a very big potential emphasis on the psychological effect and of the colonizers colonized. And why I wanted to have this talk session today was because so that we all can relate that we are still some or the another way in our head colonized by ideas of other people. And his work is one of the best that I have seen today, and many prominent writers as well. And with this, I would like to end the session, and I would thank all of you for being so patient with me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so yeah, thank you so much, Kajal. It was really a very nice presentation plus the well crafted PPT. So, we have some questions from our inquisitive listeners. The first question is from Shubham Tiwari. He is asking, when we talk about the social reformers and various freedom fighters that emerged to the forefront during our independence struggle, how do you see them? How do they fit into the Frantz Fanon's lens?
So, when we talk about the freedom fighters that came up during the freedom struggle, obviously, I think, as I said earlier in my presentation, that the background that one sees that will play a very major role in what he will act or what he will perceive of the situation. And that is something what I can see from the lens of Frantz Fanon is कि आपको एक क्लियर आइडिया मिलता है कि जो आपको कॉलोनाइज कर रहे हैं, जिनसे आप कॉलोनाइज हो रहे हैं, और आपका क्या आइडिया है. And that will pave a very might have paved a good way for the people who were struggling to gain freedom. It gives you a very brief idea of what is going on currently or might be going on at that time when freedom struggle was happening. But there's this clear perception, a perception that is cleared from his work.
Okay. So the next question is from Shailendra. He's asking, how did Frantz Fanon's experience in Algeria influence his views on colonialism and decolonization?
So, as I said earlier, that Frantz Fanon work was majorly influenced when he was working in Algeria during the Algerian War. So, when he was seeing these people struggling each and every day, his idea of colonization or his idea of colonialism or decolonization might not have been very prominent till the time he went to Algeria. But जब वो वहां गए, उनने उधर की सिचुएशन देखी कि कैसे dehumanizing effect हो रहा है. And that time the idea of decolonization through violence came in his senses कि जो ये सब कुछ हो रहा है ये अचानक से there needs to be a radical shift. And while working in Algeria during the Algerian war, he discovered the pain, he discovered the actual psychological impact that was missing. He, of course, he was not going each and every day out before working in Algeria and talking to people, but when he was there in the war, he understood these things very closely. That at the end created a great impact on his views on colonialism and decolonization through violence.
Okay. Okay. And the last question, it is from Samriddhi. She is asking, today also we are very much engulfed with the theory that everything that comes out of West is pure gold. So how do we overcome this?
So, in my personal view, I think that there are very few people who are enlightened with the fact that you are great in yourself. So, the only way you can actually not be into the this theory that everything comes from the West is gold is when you are self-sufficient in nature, and not only in nature. When you realize that you are self-sufficient, that is the only one way you would ever come out of the fact of preaching other people's idea or trying to be like someone else.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Kajal. And one last question that is from our side, which is that please tell us about your experience with our team and about our platform.
So this is actually one of the very first sessions or talks that I've actually did in my whole college life, be it undergraduate or postgraduate. And it is one of like great platforms that I have seen in Delhi University. And this experience was helping me to learn so much about the things that I was currently studying, and just bringing out a new perception of looking at things so much that I can explain it to other people or I can talk about it. And my experience with GSTS is absolutely great, and it is something that I'm gonna cherish for very long time to come. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Kajal. Now, moving forward, I would like to invite our chief guest for his valuable insights about the platform.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I think Kajal has made an excellent presentation. Taking up the works of Fanon and other philosophers is itself commendable. So I think she has done it excellently, and I think this platform is really good. Even when we were in college, there were no such platforms. So I think. The credit goes to Manish, I think, to have such a platform, so, that's all I think I had to say. And really, I've been attending these, sessions from last 3, 4 weeks, and most of the students, I have come across, they used to say that this provides them a platform where they can express themselves, otherwise they don't have the opportunity even in the college, So I think that's quite good, and, so thank you for inviting me also. And thank you to sir also. Thank you.